There's so many areas that we should be organizing around. Can you give us some direction? What are the most important? He said, yes, 3. He said, the healthcare is killing our people. Get a hold of those textbooks, because those lies are perpetuating the destruction of our people. He said, you better get a hold of the media, because the media is portraying our people as criminals and justifying the education. And if you look at that, media, there is such an incredible possibility that media could really turn this around. If we could organize media the way we're organizing social workers and bring an anti-racist lens, so the way they spoke when they're reporting wasn't biased, and the way they portrayed people wasn't biased. If we had the resources to mobilize an anti-racist media campaign, I often dream, and it's not my business, if we got all of the NAACP and the urban leagues and, the criminal justice system, the Department of Justice, and just like organized us to have a huge media campaign for media equity, I think it could make a big difference. Maybe I'm silly, but I think that the TV program 24 hours, remember the 24 hours, that was a black president? I think it had something to do with changing our image, that yes, you could have a black president. Oh, that's one thing that I think we should spend serious time and money considering, the power of the media for good, and to develop anti-racist media organizations that understand that implicit biases in every ad, every commercial, every article, and that if implicit bias is there, we can unearth it and bring it around equity. Equity that lifts the dignity and the humanity of everybody. And before you show another black man head down, hands behind, eliminate that and lift the men, We were looking at the ads that Child Protective Services puts up. They're horrible. They were horrible. I said, why are you showing those pictures of battered children? Why aren't you showing photos of parents in the room with the child going to the doctor, or a parent at the computer with the child, or parents reading? Why don't you look at that as a child welfare issue instead of like this, right? Mm-hmm. Flip it.
Where's the positive?
Where's the positive? Oh, there's a tremendous, look, we're on the brink of something really great. The more people who embrace an anti-racist understanding and understand the context and the history behind the why and the what of what we're seeing, the more people, the more hope we have. Now, the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond is the organization that offers the Undoing Racism workshop. They've trained, 900,000 people over the past 35 years in this country. Those people are everywhere, everywhere. And it's the same education. The consistency. I believe that they have really created a groundswell of people. And you know that before something happens, before a transformation happens, there's like a huge I believe we're on the brink of that. And all of this horrible tragedy that's coming out is bringing more and more of the poison forward so that we can cleanse and let the anti-racism rise. And what is anti-racism? Anti-racism means that you can't predict the outcome by race. You can't predict the outcome by race. Everything's going to be a more fair and equitable society, that everybody will have a fair chance for a better life. I feel very, very hopeful. I feel very, very hopeful.
That's fantastic. As we conclude, if you had to say one final message from your heart, what would it be?
The message is that you will never understand racism, what it is, and how it functions unless you seek out that truth. Each one of us has got to find out the history, find out the truth about why institutions act the way they act, that we have the mess that we have today. You have to go out and get your own education The system of education is just another institution, right? And don't forget, it was just like in the last century that people of color couldn't learn to read and write. It was against the law. So take an Undoing Racism workshop, go read books about history and racism, but we can't be colorblind. It is what it is. The data tells us that it's still there. So we have to challenge our own colorblindness. Eduardo Bonilla Silva wrote a book, Racism Without Racists, to help us understand colorblind ideology. There are people transforming and getting clarity everywhere, but it's going to take a lot of us. And it's not okay to be a well-intended white person. That just enables the system to keep doing its own thing. We need to be anti-racist, otherwise we will end up perpetuating racism. That's from the bottom of my heart.
That's great. That's fantastic. I went through all the questions. I didn't touch on stereotypes, but I think she covered a lot of good stuff. Do you want me to still? Yeah?
Sure.
All right, so then the only question that I didn't cover was on stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the questions is, when you think about the stereotypes, what is the impact they're having on people when people say some minorities are quick to reinforce that stereotype?
Right.
How, why do they think that, how do we start changing that? Because some people may say, well, stereotypes are really based on originally some consistency of behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So then
Like a
is
speck
it
of truth.
telling a truth in some form?
You know something, whenever you have a specific and then you make it general, you're in danger, right? I mean, there are stereotypes about women.
Yeah.
And that is the most absurd thing. Everybody has a mother. Pick one stereotype about women. Every human being has a mother. It's just not true, right?
Yeah.
So there may be some women that this is true for, but to say all women, so, men too. We can have stereotypes about men. Very dangerous. Not all men are the same, right?
Agreed.
So we have to just understand that stereotyping may have a truth in it for some people. But whenever you take something and generalize it out, it's ill-informed, it's ill-educated, often, too often, it's false, and very often, and most often, it's dangerous. Even the stereotypes that we say are positive. Oh, rich people are thus and such. Really? All people who work on Wall Street are thus and such. Really? Right? These are stereotypes that could be true, yes, but very dangerous. Let's take the police. What would our city be like if we didn't have 33,000 police officers? The police are extraordinary. We just had a march of 300,000 people coming for the People's Climate March. And New York City was impeccable. The day later, when they went to Wall Street and protested, 150 were, arrested. But nonetheless, the New York City police, the president is in town now with the UN. So any stereotype that we have about the NYPD is very dangerous. And something really sick is happening. There is implicit bias, there is a culture of violence in a very specific area, but can we say that all police officers are bad?
No.
Can we say down with the NYPD? But there are people who will say that. It's ill-informed, it's not educated, and it's dangerous. So I guess, there's not much that we can do about ending stereotypes, but what we need to do is have a conversation about what we're for. We're for police. We want police to clean up the brutality and the culture of violence. We're for police, yes, but we also are for police accountability. So I say, let's talk about what we're for. We want to lift the dignity of people. We don't want to stereotype and degrade and dehumanize.
message.
That was great.
Thank
I
you.
love that one.